as the British Parliament all agree that British steel is something worth saving, that we need it for national security, at what point will they wake up to realise that we also need food? In fact, you can't produce British steel unless we have food to feed the workers.
All right. Last time we spoke, I asked you how close we were to a trade deal with the United States, and you gave me a knowing smile, which was supposed to convince me, I think, that we're on the edge. But right now, we're still on the 10% naughty step with everybody else.
I am never going to be satisfied while there are barriers to trade between ourselves and the US, as I would do with any other key market.
You really couldn't make it up. Britain sanctioned herself with Brexit trade barriers, and now America has sanctioned itself with trade barriers, and the British government are sucking up to America in the hope of persuading them to not do something as stupid as Brexit on steroids. Ultimately, if Jonathan Reynolds is serious about getting growth and prosperity back, he needs to focus on getting rid of the non-tariff barriers that we imposed on ourselves. That has to be the priority.
And I believe there is a way through. The next step is they're going to come back to us on some of the proposals we have put.
Are you disappointed that the special relationship doesn't seem to be that special at all?
Well, I mean, it was special in the sense we were one of only 3 countries who got a preferential rate, but that's disappointing to me still. You know, I'm not satisfied with that because there is no justification, in my view, for putting tariff barriers in place between the UK and the US, further tariff barriers. I think we can reduce those barriers to trade. I think we can get British companies, businesses based in Britain, greater access to the US market in a way that works for them. And we can address some of their concerns, not just in relation to the UK, by the way, but the kind of global trading system they want, a fair, reciprocal one. And that's what we remain committed to doing.
We were in a fair and reciprocal trading arrangement when we were in the European Union. There is no fair and reciprocal trading arrangement with America. America says America first. America first means accepting their substandard produce, irrespective of what it does to our national security. It means a race to the bottom, and it means a complete loss of control as their substandard goods put our businesses out of business, and we become supplicants, total supplicants.
We have plans to retaliate if we can't make a deal.
Look, I have to keep all options on the table. I had to give that statement to Parliament to say I've got to take the steps that will give us the chance to do that.
So we could retaliate?
I don't think that is something on either side we would want to see happen. I think the focus should be on positively engaging on the agenda and finding a way through that which improves the terms of trade on what we had, not just removing the threat of anything else. I understand and I appreciate the way this has been an agenda. You know, it's been part of the presidential campaign. This didn't come from left field. He was very clear about that. But the kind of objectives they've got, Trevor, look back to what they're trying to do. If they want a fairer global trading system, show me a more fair example of that than the UK and the US relationship.
Look, I've had some...
Am I hearing this correctly? Jonathan Reynolds is holding up the relationship between the United States and the UK as the pinnacle of the best trading system. At the moment, we've been hit with 10% tariffs on most goods, but also we've got 25% tariffs on cars and steel. And they came from nowhere. There's nothing good about this. How can that be a good arrangement when for years we've been in the European Union and we've had free trade with no tariffs being bunged on us until we decided to bung ourselves up with Brexit?
I've had some mixed signals from your colleagues who's sitting here about the nature of a trade deal. Can I just ask you, let me just put it like this. Chlorinated chicken, on the table or off the table?
We will never change our SPS food standards. We've made that perfectly clear to the United States as part of our manifesto. That covers meat. It's important to say on agriculture, because this is important to the US. The UK is currently the biggest European importer of US agriculture. Now, there are some things that don't come. They do have parts of their industry that meet our standards, and that's great.
Jonathan Reynolds is already beginning to say that it's possible to have some American goods and not have others. But a trade deal is a wholly different reality. And also, since we left the European Union and the infrastructure which filtered through the bad produce, we have been inundated with illegal produce. So if we sign a deal with the United States, things can only get worse. One of our farmers was on BBC East Midlands Politics today, talking about trade deals, Brexit, food standards, and helpfully gives you some idea of the quagmire that we're in.
May be affected by a deal, I guess, with the US. You and your family have farmed in Rutland for 300 years. And of course, on this programme, we have spoken to you before about the issues that you say are faced within agriculture. But in terms of a trade deal, is there anything you're worried about? I mean, there's been a lot around potentially things like chlorinated chicken being brought into the country. It's made headlines.
Well, I think that is the main worry, that there's a trade deal done with America along the disastrous ones that were done with Australia and New Zealand, which basically sold our farmers down the river. And there's a lot of talk about chlorinated chicken, hormone-injected beef. Of course, there's nothing wrong with eating chlorinated chicken. It's the fact that they have to wash it in chlorine to get rid of the diseases and the bacteria that are on it. And a lot of the things that are grown in the United States and to a certain extent in Australia and New Zealand are grown using techniques that would be illegal in this country on the grounds that they're A, bad for health, or B, cruel. So this is going to undermine our agriculture and reduce our ability to feed ourselves. I mean, we've gone from 80% self-sufficiency in this country down to less than 60 in 20 years.
OK.
So that's really bad for UK agriculture.
Clearly a real concern there for you. I mean, Amanda, is there anything that you're worried about that your government might do when it comes to a deal with the US?
I think Keir Starmer's been really clear about any deal that we would do with the US. It's got to be in the best interest of British business. Keir's already stated that actually chicken and the hormone beef will be off the table because that's actually about food standards and we can't compromise on food standards.
But you can't avoid tariffs, certainly not at the moment. I mean, it's a 10% tariff, isn't it, that's been added to US exports, and more so if it's to do with the car industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually we just need to continue with calm heads and actually have those conversations calmly, in a grown-up manner, and making sure that we have those trade deals that are best for British business.
Luke, Amanda, very much saying a grown-up conversation is the tact of the government. How confident are you that a good deal can be done?
Well, look, we want tariffs to be reduced because actually we know that improves prosperity for all countries and also peace and safety. So Donald Trump and his decisions has made it a more unsafe world on that. What I'm more worried about is we have a big car industry in the Midlands and Keir Starmer could step in and do a lot more. What he has done is simply say, well, the fines for not having electric vehicles will drop from £15,000 to £12,000, at the same time putting in his national insurance tax, which is really going to hamper our businesses. So I'd like to see more action. We have a coalition of the willing when it comes to putting forces on the ground in Ukraine. What about the coalition of the willing for trade opportunities now? Because this is real opportunities.
You've mentioned car manufacturing. Of course, you know, we have really big names here in the East Midlands. I mean, for you, Amanda, Toyota is just on the edge of your constituency. How concerned are you?
Well, I think that you know, we have to be concerned when tariffs are added on to British manufacturers. Having had those conversations with Toyota, we know that actually
a huge employer as
massive employer,
yeah.
Absolutely, and the supply chain also. What we need to make sure is that British business are at the forefront in any conversations we have around tariffs.
Okay,
and continue our prosperity here in the East Midlands.
And you know, Andrew, from a kind of farming perspective, what do you see as a solution?
Well, I'd like to pick Amanda and Luke up on the fact that tens of thousands of tonnes of oilseed rape are coming into this country from abroad that is grown using neonicotinoid seed treatment, which is banned in this country on the grounds that it kills bees. So are other countries' bees not as important as ours? So when politicians say they're not going to allow this food in that's to lower standards, they already are.
I mean, very briefly, Luke, Amanda, would you like to respond to that?
Absolutely. I'll be meeting with Red Tractor about UK food standards and having conversations with our ministers around making sure that we are evening out the level playing field for British farmers to
Luke, would
think
you add
about those
anything?
external
The
imports.
tariffs, the biggest threat to farming at the moment is what the Labour government have done in terms of the family farm tax, the inheritance tax, they're closing the SFI.
All right, well, we've certainly reported on that.
Very worried right now about Daisy. She isn't very well. She is quite old, and we're not sure what is wrong with her, but she's definitely off colour. Hopefully, some spring sunshine and nice green grass will make her better soon.